For a long time, we only knew a small amount about Omega Earth. Most of our knowledge of the Valorant universe was about Alpha Earth. But in this episode, we'll be taking a step into Omega's world and diving into the VP's mission there, and what we discovered about Omega, specifically in the city of Lisbon, Portugal, where the map Pearl is. Hello everyone, my name's Illumi, and welcome back to another episode in this Valorant lore series. If you're enjoying this series so far, it would mean a lot to me if you drop a subscribe, a like, and a comment below. It helps out the channel a ton, and I really appreciate it. In the last episode, we talked about Neon's recruitment into the VP and how she was the key to getting the teleportal from Alpha to Omega working properly. Once that teleportal was up and running, Faye did a small recon mission to make sure the portal worked. Once she got back, she sent this voicemail to Brimstone.
I am back from Omega. You got lucky. The inbound terminal is abandoned. It is safe for us. I checked the area, but could not go far. I felt fear all around me. The whole city is on edge. I do not know why. But in the mines I touched, I saw a place of secrets. It is near another terminal. If you want answers, that is where you must go.
After this, Brimstone began prepping for another mission into the new terminal. For this mission, Neon, Killjoy, and Reyna were sent to go and scout out this new location and see if they could find these answers that Faye refers to. Answers to what? Well, there's 3 big reasons why the Valorant Protocol on Alpha wanted to go to Omega. 1. Omega Earth was stealing our Radianite, and we want it back. If you remember, Radianite is used to power 3/4 of the world's power on Alpha, so it's very important. 2. We wanted to find out what Omega was stealing this Radianite for. Up until this point, the VP were nervous that Omega was creating some kind of Radianite superweapon that would cause mass destruction. If that were the case, we would need to stop that ASAP. 3. It was time for Alpha to show that we could bring the fight to them. Until now, the VP had only ever played defense against these attacks of Omega, and the attacks of Omega had caused tons of destruction. Think of the city of Venice that is now floating in the air due to Valorant Legion's jet coming to steal Radianite. Taking the fight to them would hopefully instill some fears in Omega Earth's Valorant Legion so that they would stop trying to steal our Radianite. Before the team heads out, Brimstone sends this email to the entire VP. Agents, our team soiree into Omega commences imminently. We're bringing the battle to their turf, a first for this conflict. Take a moment and think about what that means. This is a historic event, and the danger we'll face is equally grave. There's no fame in it. We are ghosts to our world, but protecting it is our responsibility. So stay sharp, and good luck. Here, Brimstone is reminding the team of the importance of this mission. Not only is this the first step in taking the fight to Omega, but it's also a step in hopefully helping save Alpha from more destruction caused by Omega Earth's Valorant Legion. He reminds them of this because they don't get any glory in this, even though their work is directly trying to save Alpha Earth. Nobody on Alpha knows that the Valorant Protocol exists, but Brim reminds them that this is their responsibility and what they've trained for. At the start of the Shattered cinematic, we see that Killjoy, Neon, and Reyna have successfully begun the mission by taking the teleportal from Alpha to Omega Earth. They end up at the Kingdom-owned data center for the city of Lisbon, Portugal, which is the map Pearl. Once they get there, Brimstone tells them to confirm the location of their Radianite and then get out. It's clear that this first mission here is not an attempt to directly fight, but gather information about the city, the stolen Radianite, and to determine if Omega is making a Radianite weapon. However, just seconds after being reminded of their mission directive, someone shows up to fight. And it's Atlas Soldiers, which is an Omega-only organization that seems to be leading security for interdimensional travel. This explains why they were stationed near the teleportal that our agents entered through. Once these Atlas soldiers see the Alpha agents, the soldiers throw a disc-like grenade that breaks the teleportal that our agents just entered through. Well, now that this mission is no longer going to be a stealthy operation, Reyna and Neon take on the fight while they send Killjoy to retrieve the information they came for. Once she's hacked into this system, she begins to download all the coordinates for the stolen Radianite. One step of the mission accomplished. As it's downloading, she begins digging through files to see if she can find any information on this potential superweapon. But what she finds is somehow the exact opposite. Omega Earth isn't building a weapon, they're building a life support system. The projects they've been working on are a reality stabilizer, hydroponics, desalination, etc. Hydroponics is growing plants in just water, without the need for soil. And desalination is the process of removing salt from seawater so that it can be consumed by humans and plants. Unable to sort everything that's going on here in this instant, Killjoy turns her attention to finding a way out since the teleportal they took here is now destroyed. While that's happening, Reyna and Neon are still fighting Atlas soldiers left and right. One of them manages to hit Neon's surge protector suit, causing it to break. Remember, Neon uses this suit to help her control her bioelectricity. With her back against the wall and her gun out of ammo, Neon ults to take out her opponents. As soon as it looks like she's cleared the area of Atlas soldiers, though, more and more come in. Losing control of her emotions and feeling frustrated and angry, Neon yells, causing her bioelectricity to go everywhere. It kills all the soldiers fighting Neon, but it also spreads to the rest of the room they're in, which is a server room. This causes the entire data center to short circuit. Thankfully, Killjoy has successfully finished downloading the Radianite coordinates and has found a way out for them. This note about how Neon fights when her suit is broken and she's angry is important because Sage and Reyna have been fighting over how to train Neon. Sage wants to help Neon learn to control her emotions and therefore control her radiance. Reyna, however, wants to tap into Neon's emotions that when they grow out of control cause Neon's power to become even stronger, even though she significantly lacks control. While Neon was fighting Atlas soldiers, Reyna encounters Omega Viper, and they get into quite the fight. While this is going on, though, Killjoy finds their one chance to escape. Reyna, hungry for a kill, ignores the call to leave, so Neon has to forcibly remove Reyna from this tussle with Viper so that they can escape. They use Killjoy's lockdown to ward off both the Atlas soldiers and Viper from pursuing them. But as soon as they bust their way out and they're on their way to be picked up by a recovery team, they find themselves in a comic book store that is actually featured on the map Pearl. Inside, they find tons of crazy things. First, the Valorant Legion agents are being depicted in these comics, telling their tales of coming to Alpha Earth. They even label Valorant Protocol as the Alpha threat. And there's a cardboard cutout of Viper. Entirely confused as to what all this means, they look outside and see statues carved on display of 4 Valorant Legion agents: Phoenix, Sage, Omen, and Jet. And not only that, but the city of Lisbon is completely underwater and being supported by a huge dome that seems to be covering the entire city to keep water from coming in. Neon then asks, "Are we still the good guys?" Let's dive deeper into what's going on here in Omega Earth. As we found out, Omega is not building a superweapon, but a life support system for a city that is submerged beneath the ocean waves. But why is Lisbon underwater? Well, Omega is in the midst of an energy and climate crisis. Based on this timeline of events we can find on Pearl's B site, we see that after the first light, the climate began to collapse. Large tidal waves have been devastating several cities in Portugal, and the sea levels have begun to rise so high that cities were being completely submerged. So Omega went into action to try to save their Earth and people. The Valorant Legion was formed on Omega to come to Alpha Earth and steal our Radianite, in part so that they could power these life support systems. It's plausible to assume that some of the research that would have been done on the Everett Lynn facility would have helped them in their crisis. However, as we know, the facility in Fracture was destroyed by both chambers. The Valorant Legion aren't ghosts like the Valorant Protocol on Alpha. The comics, posters, and statues prove otherwise. The agents in Legion are hailed for saving their people from these deadly tidal waves. These player cards show how Omega agents use their powers to save others. They're basically the superheroes of Omega Earth. And every superhero has a supervillain, right? And of course, to them, that villain is us, Alpha Earth. However, this is super confusing for us because the Valorant Legion came and attacked us first. We didn't even know how to get over to Omega until quite literally just now. So, how are we the threat? Is this propaganda to get Omega's people to believe that the Valorant Legion is morally good? Or do they know something that we don't? So many questions and so few answers. But back to this life support system. What is it? Well, on Pearl, we can see this huge dome that's made of Radianite-infused polycarbonate to keep the city from being buried beneath the rising sea levels and tidal waves. We know that this dome can actually be lowered if the tidal waves cease and the sea levels go down enough. They also use desalination systems so that humans can drink water and it can be used to grow crops while underneath the dome. We also see trams and trains on Pearl, and it appears that these trains connect to the surface as well as other cities that are under similar domes. This would also allow for emergency evacuation if the dome fails. We see on Pearl that they are working on something called reality stabilization. Over near A site, we see pieces of architecture and bricks that are just floating around. Around them is a light purple hue of glowing mist and electricity. Apparently, Omega Earth is also struggling with parts of reality breaking down. On Alpha, we see signs of something similar on Ascent and Icebox. It stands to reason that Radianite would likely need to be used to stabilize these areas, but with the shortage of Radianite that Omega is facing, it becomes that much harder to accomplish. All this information causes a lot of mixed feelings for the Valorant Protocol. On the one hand, it seems that Omega Earth is stealing our Radianite because they're running out and they need it to power their life support systems. But on the other hand, with the Legion coming over to our Earth, they're causing destruction and also stealing our Radianite stores, of which we don't have an infinite supply. Raina sums this up pretty well in her email to Brim after they get back from the mission. How did we not know any of this? The soldiers, that garden, and now this crisis of conscience? No, unacceptable. But let's start here. Moving forward, Neon also trains with me. Limiting emotion does not work. She must use it. If Sage won't teach her that, I will. Your Radianite is stockpiled with our new friends. I suggest you find out who they are. Reyna describes their situation perfectly as a crisis of conscience. What do you do in this situation? Reyna doesn't know the answer, but she does know one concrete thing she can do: train Neon. She saw Neon's power when her suit was broken and her emotion was unleashed. Reyna thinks Sage's methods are too structured to unlock Neon's full potential. And we see that Neon probably did start training with Reyna, even if it wasn't exclusively, from these interactions between Reyna and Neon in-game.
Remember, Neon, you are so much more than your powers. Show them. Go, Neon. Defy your limits. Harness your emotions, Neon. Just as we trained.
As the VP now begins to deploy full missions to retrieve their stolen Radianite on Pearl, Cypher finds something interesting. The Legion has found a new power source. Something to do with this guy named Varun Batra? Tune in next time as we explore this new power source and the person who wields it. Bye!